Hello and welcome. Oh, that's a little bit loud, isn't it? Hello and welcome back to Making a Game. Yeah, this time we actually do have a topic that we're gonna tackle instead of just randomly adding to the core functionality. And that's because I've done, once again, I've done a lot off camera. I have actually made this, like, yeah, lots of work has been done, and I know this is all of your favorite stream. Definitely your favorite stream. But guess what? Now it can run on a potato because I've gotten it down to 800 megabytes of RAM usage on load. Do you guys know how low that is? That's like a 10-year-old computer there. Maybe not 10-year-old, but pretty old. So as before, we have our nice block breaking and placing. But this block here is the one we're going to be focusing on this time. Let me just quickly check the profile to make sure we aren't getting any garbage collections. That's something I've been very adamant about, but it seems to be working fine. These logs, we want them to be able to rotate to where we're placing them. So when I place it here, it should face me. Yeah. So, you guys may be thinking, well, yeah, that's going to be complicated. But, yeah, it's going to be complicated, but it's going to be worth it to get it working. So what we have to do is when we place a block, we have to tell a little bit of extra data about how we're placing it. And then at the same time, we have to render it to reflect that data. I completely restructured the code for how blocks work. Oh, Unity. If you're going to crash already, you are. Okay, you know what, Unity? I am beating the heck out of Unity with the... You see, Unity is great, but it isn't really made perfectly for voxel games. The whole allocating gigabytes of RAM just instantly and unallocating it instantly tends to get to it, probably because I'm using a beta version of Unity. It's not exactly stable, but, you know, I'm not going to complain. Unity is a beautiful game engine if you know how to use it. So our goal right now is to basically make it flip. So here is the new block code. Blocks are now classes, and that lets us extend them. So let me show you what I mean by that. If we go into here, here is all the code for a block, and basically the same thing in block types to make them. But if we go up to block, and we're actually going to change what this is here, block log, we can create a new class called block rotateable, because great skill there. And then we have :block, which means it extends the block class. And when we're extending the block class, that basically means that it'll do everything a block does, but we can add more to it. So we're adding a new field to it, which is its facing direction. And we're adding a rotate, so that we can rotate it. But we're going to see that how we do this is in the block class, we have this get texture position for the direction, and we're basically going to overwrite that here. So we're going to do public override vector2, or get texture position. It already knows, and we just have to write how this block will do it, and it'll do this instead. Yeah, pretty much. So let's figure out how we're going to go about doing this. Now we can somewhat copy old code, but this is actually a lot of math that I don't like to do. So we're going to assume that all blocks, the front is always going to be north. So if the front is always north, then there are 6 different ways it can be facing. So this is going to be fun. We have to write 6 different returns depending on the direction. So if direction equals direction dot north, if it's facing north, it can actually just return it like normal. But then else, if direction... Actually, we can just say if because we're returning anyway. If direction equals direction dot south, and you guys see where I'm going with this, we can actually just probably copy this one after we finish it. So if direction equals direction dot north, we're going to go over to our block code, and we're actually going to kind of copy this, because... And if it's a sided thing, it's definitely going to be render mode dot sided if it's rotatable. We aren't even going to bother if it isn't, because the chances of it not being... There would be no point in rotating a block if it was the same on every side. So now that we've pulled this all down to make it look nice, so if the direction is north, this is the exact normal way to do it. So that's basically our normal way, but now we need every other direction. If direction equals direction dot south, this is where things get a little bit more complicated. Oh boy. Okay, time to draw a little bit of a diagram so we can understand how complicated this really is. Because I think some of you have caught on at this point at what I'm trying to do, but I'm still going to draw it out. So if we have our block, right, and we're gonna draw logs because that's what we're trying to do here. We've got logs. And it's got the circle at the top because it's logs, and it's got the wood on the sides, and there's a log. Well, normally we say, well, the top gets this texture. I know, beautiful art. And then the sides get this texture. But when we place it towards the player, it could be turned like this. And if we know this is facing the player, we know we want to place this here. Then we have to place every single other texture off of it in the opposite direction, which is really, really, really annoying in a lot of ways. I can already see two problems we're going to run into, but we are going to ignore that problem until we get the first part working. So first we just want to get the textures on the... First we have to make sure that it's actually just putting the textures on correctly. Then we're going to worry about rotating the textures because that's going to be even worse. I don't want to do that. Okay, if the direction is south, we actually just have to do the opposite. So we're going to make an opposite table here. Shoot. This is going to really hurt. Okay, we're gonna just throw a method in here for the purposes of this. Public void, public direction get opposite. Just to make my life easier for this one thing here. We may use it again at some point. And then direction and then if dir equals direction dot north, return direction dot south. Oh god, this is going to be fun. 3, 4, 5, 6. If it's south, return north. If it's east, return west. If you cannot see the pattern here, it is not very exciting, I'll admit, but it'll make things easier in the future. East, west turns to east. Oh boy. West turns to east. Up turns to down. And down turns to up. Eh. Okay, so that essentially flip. And then if none of those are true, which isn't possible, we'll just make the compiler happy though. And we'll just send north out if for some reason it isn't any of these. Which, once again... Oh. Yeah, otherwise it would be direction.all, which, once again, it doesn't really... That's never going to happen. If direction equals direction.south. Oh, boy. Wait, did we get a super chat in this? No, that's just backed up. That's just backed up, so ignore that. It got backed up from last stream. I was about to say, this isn't exactly exciting yet. So, now we just do get opposite direction, and look at that. Yeah, that is old. Oh no, I'll say right now that it is very similar to Minecraft. I'm not even going to protect myself from that criticism. Yes, it is, at the moment. You have to give me some time to add original stuff to it because, I'm just getting the base of it down. And the base of it is, yeah, cubes. I do understand. I get where you're all coming from there. I understand the criticism. Okay, so technically, if this is going south, it should flip everything. But flipped is exactly the same for the logs, so there's no way we will actually know. Shoot. I think we're actually going to have to change this to do more. Okay, direction source and direction facing. So this is going to be made more complicated. We're going to make it so that... Okay. Oh man, this is a lot of combinations and I don't like it. I'm trying to think of if there's a way to automate this. So, the best... Math, this isn't even math, this is just a lot of combinations. If source equals direction dot north and facing equals direction dot... So there's ways to simplify this. We can first say if source equals direction dot north, and then inside of that you can say if facing equals direction dot down, and then you're going to have to do, oh geez, this is going to be disgusting. Okay, I'm gonna have to draw a diagram. 4, 5, 6. So there's 36. There's 36 combinations here. You could actually make a little bit of a more mathy approach to it, but it'll be laggy. So if the direction is north and you're trying to face south, now north is the fun one because north if the source is north, okay. Okay, the direction you're facing, the direction that's facing you, and then the direction that comes out. Oh, geez, this is so overly complicated in so many ways. I apologize for all the pausing. I'm actually drawing out diagrams to make this more, simple. Okay, so if it's facing you, if the block is facing north and you want to get south, that's just normal then. So we're gonna swap this. We're gonna make this facing, and then we're going to make, I'm gonna change this from source because that's a confusing name. I'm gonna change it to get because it's the direction we're trying to get it from. These names are really bad and confusing, but you know what? This entire concept is confusing because there's 6 ways it can face. There's 6 sides, and there's 6 ways it can be facing, which brings it up to 36. So if it's facing north, everything is normal because north is what we're considering to be the facing one. So this is absolutely normal. Yes, it is. Okay, just had to do a little bit of math there, mental math, or just not really math, head logic. So if we do return direction dot south, and that's actually pretty simple for now. Boop, 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 boop. You should actually cut all of this so that I can copy this whole thing so that I can do it again. Return direct, shoot. Okay, we actually have to change these. South, east, west, up, and down. Okay, this is actually... Okay, we're gonna copy this, and I just realized this can be simplified extremely well by just returning the one you're trying... by returning the exact thing you were given, because it's exactly the same. So that saves us 6. Now, if facing equals south, we need to return the opposite. So if it's facing south, if it's north, we return south. If it's south, we return north. If it's east, we return west. If it's west, we return east. If it's up, we return down. If it's down, we return up. Okay, so that means we're 12 out of 36 done. Now the next one. If we are facing east, okay, for the methods of for the purpose of not killing my brain, I'm drawing this out before I do it. Okay, if it's north, we're going to want to go... If we're trying to get the north, we're going to return east. South is going to be west. East, wait, north, east, south, west. East is going to be north. West is going to be south. Up is going to be shoot. No, that's right. That's right. Up is going to be up. And down is going to be down. We have to slightly tweak, actually, how we're programming log. Because currently it has itself going up like it's supposed to be. But because we're assuming north to be the one facing you, it's just a little bit of a tweak. So if we go back to block types, we're just going to modify this to be, where is log? So this is actually going to be north and south. Just because of the way we're coding this. And then these are going to be up, down, east, and west. Oh, the complexity is just getting fun now. Okay, going back to our block rotatable class. This is actually, pretty bad. Pretty bad. This isn't actually all necessary anymore. Because we're actually completely overcomplicating it anyway. Okay, so instead this is going to be get rotate direction, and then the and I think we have, yes, we have facing here. Okay, beautiful. That somewhat works, I guess. And then just return new vector 2. That's all working. Now we just have to finish this. So we're halfway done here. Basically now it's just very, very exciting. And that is with the deepest sarcasm. Okay, so if we are facing west, then north is going to be west. South is going to be east. East is going to be south. West is going to be north. Up is going to be up, and down is going to be down. Now, where things get fun is adding 2 more directions to it. What's the way that would make this make the most... Okay, what if facing equals up? I guess it doesn't really matter at this point which way it's facing. If it's facing up, shoot. I guess even when one side is up, it can still be rotated. We aren't even going to worry about that right now. We're just going to get basic rotation down, and then we'll... Sometime on my own time, I will get everything working, but this is just simple. Okay. Now, if it's up, we want... Shoot. Okay, if it's up... Okay, so if it was west... North returned west. So up, we're going to return... Okay, do this the same way. North is up. South is then down. East can be east. Can it? I mean, it can. East can be east. West can be west. Up can be north. And sound can be south. I have a feeling I'm doing this all completely wrong, but we will see how it works. This is going to be a really interesting result from this. Actually, for down, we can copy this. Oh, whoops. We can copy this, except just flip 2 of these. Okay, that should do it. And then we can just, right here, we can do return direction dot all, I guess. Now it's very questionable what this will do. We'll make the default direction for it to be facing north so that we can see if this is working. If it isn't working, then I think my brain is going to die. Oh, wow. Look at that. Huh. That actually worked. Would you look at that? Okay, now we just have to have it rotate depending on how you place it. So this is where it gets slightly more complicated. We just have to tell it which way it's facing when you place the block. So we just have to carry over a little bit more, oh boy. Okay, so here's where we can determine the direction. Direction, dear, then equals direction dot. We'll just make it north by default, and now we can say if hit dot normal dot x, which means the amount it bounced off of x, Shoot. Okay, we're gonna try this. I'm not sure if this will actually work. Direction equals... If it was bouncing off of X, that would be east. If it's less than negative 0.5, then it's gotta be west. Now we can actually just flip these, copy them over, switch that to Y. If that, then it's up. If that, then it's down. Copy it again. Then we can say south or north. Will this work? I actually am questioning this part. I personally do not like to mess around with normals because I don't 100% understand them. But technically, since I'm already using them to do something and that's working fine, I think they'll work fine for this purpose. If type equal is type of, I don't think I can do that. I can do type dot get type equals type of, and then I can do block rotatable. I think that's a thing I can do. Method, group, and type. Nope, that is going to be mad. Can I throw brackets, well, parentheses around it to make it happy? No, I cannot. I'll work on a lamp. That shouldn't... Well, that'll be really complicated, but I'll work on it. Okay. So. Let's just quickly look into... But thank you again, Tjmcnee. We're just going to quickly look into C# type of, because I've used it like twice before. If blank equals type of thing. That's exactly what we did, isn't it? Oh, I am not... Oh, come on. Darn method. Shoot. I should have caught that. Is this going to work for me now? Yes, it is. If it is a rotatable block, then terrain... X, Y, Z, dot. And then we have to get fancy here. Get real fancy. We have to make sure that we're talking about a rotatable block. Then we have to say dot facing. Oh, shoot. No, I gotta put big parentheses around this entire thing. There we go. And then we can do facing equals direction. Wow, that wasn't complicated. Let's see what we can do now. Okay. It's just going to return north no matter what I do now, isn't it? I had a feeling it was going to do that. Okay, that's fine. Have it your way, code. I don't care. I will find a way. I think. Okay, we're going to look at this. Where it's going wrong. It's over here. I know it's this. This right here is actually a mess. And what we can do instead of doing that is say... Oh, jeez. I don't like doing that. How do we know which direction we're facing? Well, we have to get the opposite, but the normals really confuse me how normals work. Which I use here, as ironic as that is. You know what? Let's do a little bit of quick Google. Because I have to figure out what range they send back. Nope, not mesh.normals. Anatomy, boop, doop, doop, doop. Oh, that's not what I need. I just want to know. Aha, calculating a perpendicular vector. That's exactly what we need to do. Okay, that's more complicated than I wanted it to be. Considering we're getting the normals back already. So let me explain how a normal works. Because I do know how they work, I just don't... I'm trying to think of how I can use them to do what I want to do. So if we have a surface, let's say a cube. When we raycast, so we hit the block and we say, whoa, there's something there. The normal, this shouldn't be here. This is a lie. There is no reflection. The normal says, whoa, the opposite direction of this is this. It'll point this way because that is the exact perpendicular to the block. Yeah, that makes sense. The problem is using that properly. If I can figure out the direction the normal Okay, so we're getting to calculus territory here. Wait, but if we do... Haha, ha ha ha, ha. If we do hit.normal.x... Okay, here we go. If hit.normal.x minus hit.point.x. Actually, If we want to understand how to use these properly, let's actually just figure out what values we can get while hitting blocks. So, let's just check this out, because this will probably be important in the future. And one of the easiest ways to do it is just debugging. So whenever we hit a block now, it'll tell us exactly where we're hitting. Okay, so the normal versus the position. So here's our numbers. Okay, we need to change this so that we can actually tell which is which. And then we can do position equals blah blah blah. That'll do us well. Because that... There, that's better. Not equals, plus. Mining turtles. We're not... Yes, I do want to add machines to the game. That is one of my plans. But, well, I'm currently programming it to make that a thing. So we're trying to find the X normal. So if I hit on the X side, normal is 1. Ah ha ha. Ha. Ha ha. So it's 1. So if we hit the X side, is it always going to return 1 for normal? Yes, it will. So if we're hitting the X side, it will always return 1 for normal. That's what we needed to know. So now if hit dot normal dot X equals 1, return, then you're facing east, direction equals direction dot east, or dir equals direction dot east. And then we just have to do the same thing but negative, and then do the same thing with Y's and Z's. So that would be up, that would be down, and then we just add the Z's. If Z equals 1, it's north, or else it's south. And that should do what it needs to do. Now let's check the rest of the code. We're actually going to do this. It may get mad. Okay, so then... That's important. I forgot to do that. That was dumb. That was really dumb. That could have been our entire problem before, too. Okay, so let's see what happens now. Of course it's going to complain because of that. Yeah, I knew it was going to do that, because you do have to assign things an initial value. Even though I know it'll never mess up, the compiler is going to complain. Shut up, compiler. Shut up. Be quiet. Okay. Let's see if this works. Work! Work. Somewhat work. Do something different depending on how I place you. Okay, so this is what we call stubborn. There's several reasons it could not be working. I'm just going to try placing it on every side. Okay, so now we have to ask ourselves, why isn't this working? First off, do we have this set correctly in block types? No, we have this. This is what I meant about. You never know if you're doing it right because you can always make little mistakes. Log needs to be a block rotatable. We can just change there. And it can still fit into here because it's still considered a block because of beautiful inheritance. Okay. Oh. It works. Wait, it worked for a second. Okay, so it changed afterwards, but it is actually... It's changing the direction of all of the logs in the chunk. And I know why it's doing that, actually. I actually do know why it's doing that. Well, that's quite interesting, actually. Look at that. But it does actually work. That's surprising that I actually got all that logic correctly. Okay. Okay, I do know the reason this is happening. Guys, don't forget to, well, like the video if you're enjoying it, because it is a lot of work, and I am going to be making the download for this game 100% free once it's somewhat working. So, what is the problem, you may ask? Well, you see, this is static, which means there's only one instance of this log, which means we actually have to change this. Okay, this brings up a great question to be asked. Oh, shoot. So this is kind of a dilemma here. Because this has to be static for reasons, but we can't have it be static for other reasons. What we're going to have to do is we're going to have to make block log its own special class. So let me show you guys what that looks like after Unity crashes, of course. It can't have static instances because static classes all have to be exactly the same. Now, while this is loading, let me explain that to you guys. So, we have static classes and we have public classes. We're going to make the public one green. We'll say, no, not grass. Grass would actually is going to have to be, oh well. We'll say that grass is public and that logs are static. Now, here's the problem. We can say, without a doubt, every single grass block is going to be exactly the same. It's always going to have grass on top. It's always going to have the textures laid out the same way. So instead of saying, well, here's a grass block, here's another grass block, here's another grass block, the fastest way to program it is to just make it go, well, if it's grass, just point to one thing instead of having a bunch of different things. Which saves RAM because we only need to store one copy of this in RAM. However, with the log can have different situations. The log can be facing in different directions, which means we need to save a copy of each log. Because otherwise, whenever we place a new log, it'll change every single log. But this is a simple, well, not really simple fix, but it's a fix that's going to have to be done. So, we're actually going to have to get rid of this in the block list, sadly. That's going to add some complications. I think we're just going to have to leave a copy of this. Okay, we're gonna figure out how we do this in a second. Let's make the class first. And we're going to go blocks, so that any blocks that do need their own instance, and then we're going to do block log, and this is going to basically... How I structure this affects the rest of the game, which is why this worries me a little bit. Everything I do here is very important because it can really, really change the future of the game. It can change everything about it. So we can actually just take all of this out of here. We can also, we're just going to have one, instead of it being public, we're just going to keep a copy of it for reference reasons. Why are you complaining? We're going to keep one copy of it for that exact reason. And then we're going to have this, we can put all of the, oh, jeez. That's not going to be pretty, is it? Because of... Okay, let's quickly Google Visual Studio format code, because that's going to be very necessary here. Control K and then Control D. Okay. So this is going to be very mad at me for a little bit here. Oh, can you stop being mad at me, darn class? Okay, so we have to change a few ways. Okay, we're actually going to get rid of this, and we're going to think about how we're going to pull this off. This is actually really complicated. It may seem... It may seem simple, but this is actually another problem we're going to run into here. Did I get rid of this completely? Yeah, just undo all that. Okay, so, the problem. I wish I could just hold a little bit more data inside of these to just make this a lot simpler. But if only things were that simple. I'm just going to hit play one more time before this stops working because of the amount of work I have to do on it. Oh, yay. Look, well, it's not really working, but it's working enough that, like, it's going to be depressing to see it completely dead in a few seconds when I completely change how the code works. Oh, I just actually got myself stuck in a block. Good job, me. That is interesting, though, seeing how the static classes all affect each other. It's extremely annoying, though, because it makes things so much more complicated. So we have to change how blocks work. And this is actually pretty simple. Public, virtual, get ID, return ID. We basically need to make it so that to get this stuff, you have to go through methods first. These are all going to be private, which is probably going to give me a lot of trouble in the next 4 seconds, but that's fine. It's going to be worth it. Public, virtual, bool is opaque, and I'm going to explain why I need to do that in a second. Return opaque, public, virtual, render mode, get render mode, return render mode. You see, I cannot actually override a variable, but I can override a method. So by using methods instead of variables, I can kind of cheat around the fact that I can't do anything else. Public, virtual, texture map, get texture maps, return text maps, public, virtual, string, get name, return name. We're almost done here. Public, virtual, int, strength, return strength. Okay, so shoot, get strength. So this is going to cause a ton of errors. I already know where. Yes, 77 errors. Woo! Let's go. Oh. Sigh, let's sigh. This is going to basically force me to rewrite 90% of the game. Okay, this definitely, oh, this hurts. Shoot. Shoot, shoot, shoot. So, there's a few ways we can go about doing this. I can remember never to touch the innards of the blocks. Or I can properly move everything over to classes. Okay, so this is going to hurt really, really bad. This is going to require so much work. Okay. Well, it appears that we're going to actually have to change pretty much. Well, here we go. Block air. Everything's getting its own class now. Oh, the blocks should be so proud. I knew this was going to have to done at, I was going to have to do this at some point, but this still hurts to do. It's just so much work. Block test. Block grass. Block dirt. Block glass. And block spike. Okay, so we have to fill all of these. We have to create a class for every single one. Okay, so block air is a block. So now we basically have to say what to do for everything. If you're trying to get the ID of air, return 0. Public override. Oh, thankfully it's actually suggesting them. Oh, jeez. Return block types dot block air. Oh, this is going to take so much. Actually, this is fine. There's some things we don't have to mess with. What do we have to mess with is the question we should be asking. And that's pretty much everything in here. So we're actually going to dual screen this like a pro. Block air. Where is block air? Okay, what do we have to override? Those 5 things. Public override. Get name. And then it needs to return air. Public override string. No, not string. Strength. Return 0 because it's air. Public override. Okay, let's just finish block air, and then I have to end it there. Render mode, get render mode, return. Render mode dot normal. And there is one left here. Public override bool is opaque. Return false. Okay, guys, I guess I'm going to have to go through all of this on my own. Thank you guys for watching. Yeah, this is going to be a lot of work on my own. It's probably good that I'm doing this off screen anyways. But I will see you all next time when hopefully this is all sorted out. And I will see you all next time. Yeah, there's a lot to do here. There's a lot to do. Maybe I'll throw this on GitHub so that you guys can help me. Maybe not. Don't want anyone stealing everything. I mean, if you were precarious enough to copy every single thing you saw in this series, but that probably won't ever happen. So I will see you all next time.